This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it.
Rams Nation, how we doing here? This is Ian. That's Mark. That's Paul. Welcome to another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. Episode 64. Here we are, gentlemen, Rams Nation. Meaningful games in December. Who would have thought after that 1-4 start? I probably wouldn't have, right, gentlemen?
Yeah, this is our first time we've done this for a first place Rams team in months, right?
Yeah.
Kind of nice.
It is nice. And you know what else is nice? Tight end Tyler Higbee officially being activated. I think that's pretty nice. Happy holidays to us. And finally, after he took that, let's just call it what it is, a dirty below the belt shot from the Lions safety in that wild card playoff game where Higbee had a very bad knee injury, everyone. He tore multiple ligaments in that knee. It wasn't just a straight shot MCL, straight shot MCL or PCL. I want to say it was at least 2, maybe 3. Someone maybe look that up and correct me real quick if I'm wrong on that. But it was bad. Really, really bad. And everyone talked about how determined he was to get back this season and how much he's been through and how it killed him not to be out there majority of the season. But he was still what Sean McVay likes to call a glue guy, someone who can bring the team together, can rally the troops. And he was doing that without his play on the field, without more records for Rams tight ends being broken. And everyone is super excited, talking to players, coaches, and we're excited too, right, Mark?
Yeah, they're going to get him a tight end screen on that first series, aren't they? They're going to get him the ball.
So.
Yeah. No, I've always loved Tyler Higbee. He's just a tough son of a gun. It's obvious. And hey, our tight ends have been okay. He's going to help though.
Yeah, he's going to help big time. And hopefully we see him do some good stuff during the Jets, right, Paul?
It's going to be pull the air horn right there for Big Rig Higgs. There it is, man. Good to have him back. That's a boost in the locker room. So talk about great having him back. I mean, that's just going to elevate everybody's game. So we'll talk about how they're going to sort of integrate him and the best way to sort of do that. We already talked about it offline. And Ram Nation, I'll say it right up front, man, keep him away from the mess in the middle in the first game back. use him out, third down, bring him in, let him have some fun, let him use his size, go grab some catches, get his feet under him, and let him do his thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And on a side note, just looking at this photo we have here, shout out to everybody on YouTube tuning in, like, subscribe, share this video with all your fellow Rams fans, football fans out there. And we really appreciate you tuning in, listening in on the podcast side of things as well. But if you are watching it with us, gosh dang it, I missed these uniforms when he had that record-breaking season in 2019 for Rams tight ends. Anyway, that's a debate for another day. I know it's a sensitive subject for many, but I hope to see him be like the 2019 Higbee, breaking records, making insane catches. So hopefully we see that starting this week up in New York. But with that said, gentlemen, I mean, real quick, we just got to share this fun stat for everyone out there. Rams won big time on Thursday Night Football. We swept the 49ers. Everyone's playing that anthem right now. The F the 49ers. They're a sorry-ass team. Everyone knows that song. You've probably seen it all over the internet sphere. The parody. And enjoy it. But now it's time to move on. But real quick, for anyone who didn't know, the Rams defense held Kyle Shanahan's San Francisco 49ers to 191 total yards, which is the second fewest under any game in the Shanahan 49er era. Shout out to the Rams PR on X, Twitter, finding that stat out for us. So real quick, just wanted to shout them out before we start handing out some game balls to specific people. But Rams defense as a whole did enough in the crappy weather and, really embarrass a team full of all pros on their offense. And what a great feeling. What about you, Paul? Mark?
Yeah, the D is definitely on an upward trend, as you can see. And the boys you got right there on the screen, Q Lake and particularly Tyler Davis and Kobe Turner have been holding it down. They played a great game. And Curl had a nice game. Curl had a really nice game. And we had said in the last week's roundtable, I said D Will and that cornerback room, they're just too good. They have to, they're definitely better than everything that we had seen. And they stepped up and they proved us right. So hopefully that's an upward trend that will continue. And then the addition of Forbes, hopefully they'll get a chance to work him in. And hopefully our boy Kobe's ready to go. He's got that sternum that's still a little sore, but hopefully if he's ready to go for the rest of the season, that's a strong squad.
Yes, it is. What about you, Mark? Quick thoughts on the crappy Niners performance by us.
This is a good opportunity to, I don't like to beat a dead horse. 49er Nation, it's tough times for them. And I don't want to beat them up. But I did jump on some 49er podcasts and YouTube broadcasts just out of curiosity, kind of see what the enemy's up to. And they are not happy, as you'd expect. And some really interesting information you can glean from watching those, and I'd encourage Ram fans to do it. It'll make you feel better for one thing, but you learn a little bit about what's going on there. And the coaching staff's under a lot of heat there. They're realizing they've drafted really poorly. Is Brock Purdy the quarterback or not? And one of the YouTube guys, I forget who it was, might have been John Chapman, might have been someone else, was saying that, Shanahan has an MO and he has a way of attacking defenses and he's very stubborn about it. And they compared him to Sean McVay, who very similar approach on offense, but he's pragmatic and he makes changes and he's willing to change in the middle of a game. I know sometimes we wish he'd change quicker, but really criticizing Kyle Shanahan for just sticking with what is not working in a game instead of changing it up. And I think that's what happened in this game. But got to give it a lot of credit to the Rams defense, obviously. But the 49er offense, that 49er organization is going through some really tough times right now. And I kind of enjoy it. But at the same time, I almost starting to feel bad for them just a little bit because, man, it's a sad state of affairs up there in Santa Clara.
Yeah, well, I don't feel bad at all. Losers. Anyway, that's all in fun and games, everyone.
Just in case there's any 49er fans out, I don't want to be too mean, but I know where you're coming from.
Again, it's all fun and games. There are our rivals up here in California. So I don't feel bad. You had your chances and you blew them. We'll see what happens next year. Sayonara. But anyway, with that said, gentlemen, let's hand out some game balls with that slobber-knocker defensive battle that went on in that 49ers-Rams games on Thursday Night Football. So I'll start with you, Paul. Who are you giving a game ball to with their contributions leading to that Rams big victory on Thursday night?
Yeah. So first off, as we do our band shirt Wednesday, right? We're gonna try to like bring in like different different clips and different themes to these roundtables. So shout out to the Chili Peppers, my son's favorite band. No better band to represent Los Angeles. So my game ball is easy, slam dunk. I had to give it to Iron Kyron. Back to back, 29 carry games, all tough yards. Nothing glamorous, just hard work. Bring your lunch, get it done. So shout out to 2-3, man. Iron Kyron showing what he's made of, and showing like how powerful the running game for the Rams actually is, and the ability to sustain over a series of games. He's showing that he can get it done, and he's a touchdown machine. He's when we get to our speed blocks, we'll take a look at some of those numbers.
Yeah, and real quick, anyone who wasn't able to tune into the post game reaction we released after the big win, Kyron just keeps breaking Eric Dickerson's record. It's fantastic. So real fast, shout out to Rams PR yet again, finding fun stats for us to share. Running back Kyron Williams rushed for at least 60 yards in his 12th consecutive game, passing Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, who had 11 for the longest streak in Rams history. What a freaking baller. And I assume more records will go down in the next couple weeks at least, it feels like, as every week there's some rushing record that he's breaking. And for anyone who's unaware, shout out to Paul for pointing this out too. Steven Jackson had a nice little surprise for Kyron Williams in the last couple weeks. Go ahead and share that info with us here, Paul.
So for those of you that don't know, so Iron Kyron's from St. Louis, so he's a big Steven Jackson fan. He was actually one of the kids that was enrolled in the 39 Wishes program when Steven Jackson was there. So Steven Jackson showed up at the most recent film room study session, and he announced that Kyron was the Rams nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And, Kyron was completely surprised. He saw his idol walk in and present him with a pair of golden cleats. So shout out to Iron Kyron, who's showing that not only can you be a champion on the field, but you can be a champion off the field. And what better role model than SJ39, undoubtedly one of the most underrated running backs in the history of the NFL.
There's more of that Ram culture there, right? Two guys that really exemplify it.
Yep, absolutely. There's nothing about that hard work, the sacrifice, and SJ39. We're all big fans of SJ. I think every Ram fan is. You talk about some lean years that he played with the Rams and just put that team on his shoulders. And you could just go back and watch film clip after film clip after film clip of him running into loaded boxes, like 9 guys on the line, and just carrying 4 or 5 tacklers downfield. So, who better to emulate than someone like SJ39 in terms of leadership, selflessness, and then also contributions to the community. And like Mark's always said, the culture that is presently in place in the Ram organization is second to none. And kudos to them.
Yeah, I'm just glad Rams want to keep bringing around Steven. The St. Louis guys, some people who aren't diehard Rams fans, they forget about him, or he could be forgotten because he was on the worst era of Rams football. Unfortunately, had nothing to do with him, but I'm glad he's brought around to do cool stuff like this. And don't forget him, Rams Nation. Steven Jackson was that dude on awful teams in NFL history, if we're being honest. So respect to that, and respect to Kyron for being a baller off and on the field for sure. So good game ball handout there, Paul. But with you, Mark, you pick somebody who's been on the O-line rant and rave crowd for everyone who's been enjoying good O-line play. Who are you handing your game ball out too.
Well, I think he gave it away, but yeah, Kevin Dotson. And, we all saw that one play, and it's great to see a Ram team playing football like this because, if there's ever been a franchise with all the great offenses we've had, the greatest show on turf, and even the early McVay years, get labeled as soft. Well, watch this film and tell me the Rams are soft. Kevin Dotson, just, oh man, it was just a sight to see. And it's not just that play, as you guys mentioned before we recorded here. He graded out really well. One of the best run blockers in the NFL at this point in time, I think. And yeah, it's that's what we need. That's what this team needs. You match that up with a passing game with guys like Nakua and Cup, who are also so tough. A team that, when they're playing well, they can put 30, 40 points up on you, but they're not soft. They are a rugged physical team, and Kevin Dotson is the focal point of that for me.
Yeah, dude was baller. I mean, watching the film, he was bulldozing people all game. And this clip right here is just fantastic. He said, "All right, see you later. I'll let you go. Get out of the way." And you get out of the way to All Pro Hufanga. And he was looking for Chardavius Ward after. I'll replay it one more time for everyone tuning in with us. Chardavius was like, "Whoa, hey, big dog there. Whistle got blown. Don't get me either." So you see there, he gets the other two, and he was like, "Come here, Chardavius." And he was like, "Hey, hold up." So yeah, dude deserves to be a Pro Bowler. Dude deserves All Pro votes and consideration for guard. Thank God we signed him, and that Jonah Jackson money we gave, it makes it a little bit easier when Dotson's doing stuff like this, right, Paul?
Let's just stop and reflect. K. Dot and the Havenstein monster on that right side. That's what we call the right side, the strong side. Now we mix in a little bit of Big Rig Higgs and the way Hunter Long, Davis Allen, and Park have been throwing the body around. Man, it's, they can get that run game going. Like Mark said, the balance, it doesn't detract from the passing game. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about the running game, that it's like either or, they're mutually exclusive. That's totally erroneous. They enhance one another. They protect your quarterback. And if you think about it, when Staff has had his most efficient games is when the running game has been just churning it out. And, when you watch this film, like both of you alluded to, the physicality element, think about this for a second. When I see the Rams O-line run blocking like this, you know what I notice? Their pass blocking is even better. You want to know why? They're pumped up. They're ready to go. They're psyched to take on those pass rushers and be physical with them. So it makes a big difference as opposed to having to drop back 40 times, just be a human punching bag for the duration of the game. So it has multiple elements to it, but the physicality element of it cannot be denied. And, the body language, like you pointed out with that one player, it just tells you what happens. They don't want to face that type of offense on a regular basis.
Yeah. No, they do not. So, what a great clip. What a great player. That's a great game ball you had out there, Mark. And who the heck am I choosing? And we've shredded this player on here for quite some time, and we already shouted the defense as a whole. I know Kobe Turner had a good time, but I got to give my game ball to young Joshua Cardi, someone who grew up a 49ers fan. He had mentioned that in his draft process. He did not hold back on that, as players do on purpose. They don't want to be like, hey, I like this team. And he was kind of hoping maybe the 49ers would pick him as they needed a kicker during that time in the offseason. But without Cardi's field goals, especially that deep one from 48 yards that he nailed before the half, we don't win this game. If he has another bad game or a slip or the hold or the whole kicking operation from long snap to holder and him obviously launching it, kicking it, we would have lost this game. Every field goal mattered, and respect to him, sticking it to his team twice in his rookie campaign. Had the game winner in week 3, then had all the points in this week 15 matchup that led us, sweeping the 49ers. And shout out to him. I know we've all questioned McVay's confidence in him, as it seemed like it's been wavering back and forth depending on what the hell's going on with that kicking unit. But I got to give my game ball to him. And real quick, shout out to Rams PR with more fun stats about Cardi. So Cardi became only the third player in franchise history to score at least 90 points in their first 14 career games. In franchise history with 92. The only other players to accomplish that feat are Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, who had 120 in 1983, and Frank Corral, 98 in 1978. So these young Rams, everybody, just continuously get themselves in the record books. And, shout out to him. We're going to need him to win more games these next 3 weeks and in the postseason if we take care of business and get there. So I'm happy to give my game ball out to young Joshua Cardi. No longer a 49ers fan, he said in his post-game press conference talking to reporters.
Yeah, that really surprises me. I had no idea that he was in that area there, north of 90 points. Never would have thought that.
Me either. What about you, Paul? Quick thoughts on this.
First of all, shout out to that Frank Corral barefoot leg reference. You gotta love it, right? For old school Ram fans. But yeah, I mean, listen, if this kid comes through, and the interesting thing is, last year not having a kicker really cost us, right? We talked about that in the beginning of the season. So this was a huge roll of the dice to go with a rookie kicker. So if he comes through, I mean, that is just absolutely huge for the Rams, because there's going to be multiple big game kicks down the road, right? On the horizon. So, one thing I will say, he does have a positive demeanor with everything he's gone through. Every time you see him at the interviews, he's always got his chin up. He's always, very, very mature and insightful. So, hopefully this will continue. And as the weather gets nicer, hopefully his range, we can start tacking on 5 or 10 yards at a time. Because if he can hit from 50, and if he can get to be to that point where he's like Matt Gay-esque, automatic from 45 in, that's a huge weapon for the Rams.
100%. So shout out to you, Cardi. Keep making those kicks, baby, because we're going to need them big time to win the West and then hopefully make a deep playoff run. So that's fantastic. And just like the players and the staff and the whole Rams organization, we say sayonara to the previous week. We got to move on to the New York Jets coming up. But before we get to all that stuff, Rams Nation, we got to talk about Paul's starting blocks. Number 2, as we look to keep winning and playing good football. So go ahead, Paul. Take it away, dude.
At this point of the season, we're not going to change much, right, guys? We said we were Ram Nation. We were going to roll with our starting blocks. We were just going to do the analysis based on our game to game. This week was a little bit tough because of the bad weather, so I threw out a lot of the analysis and just sort of highlighted the positive trends. But once again, you take a look at the Rams, look at that differential in TOP. We said if you want to stay on top, dominate the TOP. That's the one battle that matters. And if you look at it there, once again, a differential of about 10 minutes and change. So that's huge, right? And you're starting to see a pattern emerge. And when we start talking about the passing game, clicking and the third down percentage and the ground game being consistent, this is where it's really going to start to shine. And that's in that time of possession. Keep the other team off the field. But more importantly, it's just like in basketball. The more touches you give your star players, the more points they're going to score. So if you give Stafford the ball for an extra 10 minutes, he's going to do damage, right? He is the engine that drives that machine. So, and, it's a thing of beauty at this point every time we take a look at that statistic. Let's take a look at the Ram rushing offense. So you see the commitment to the Rams run game and how it's come through. Let's take a look. They were averaging 105 yards a game on the season currently. This is what they're averaging. In the last 3 games, their average is 145 yards a game. You talk about the rushing game, and obviously it's no coincidence the Ram O-line. Now, what did we say a couple of weeks ago? The Rams were unveiling their new weapon. What was that? Their first time. They're a healthy, intact 5 with the addition of Bo Limmer in the middle, right? And huge dividends already. To have a 145-yard game average in a 3-game span doesn't surprise me as well as they have played. Let's take a look at the numbers. 156 in New Orleans, 137 in Buffalo, 142 against San Francisco. That's absolutely huge, right? Absolutely huge. We also talked about the Rams resurrecting the deep strike passing game. Well, let's talk about that for a second, and we'll expand upon it. Look at the numbers. Matthew Stafford. Look at that completion percentage, 66.3%. Look at those 10 TDs, 0 INTs the last 5 games. When we talk about that deep strike passing game, we were talking about those Ram receivers, right? Running down those seams. What are the seams? The top of the numbers, right? On either side of the numbers, the tops and bottoms of the numbers. Well, those are those patterns that we're taking a look at. And then also having other receivers challenging those safeties, forcing teams to play both their safeties back as opposed to just having one safety back and having their other safety maybe jumping down on a receiver or maybe packing the box against the run. So we're starting to see that, and we're starting to see Stafford take advantage of that. By the way, when you take a look at that completion percentage, that usually turns out to you, and keep watching that, Ram Nation. If you take a look at that completion percentage, it'll probably coincide with the number of plays in a game and what they average. If you see him stay consistently at 66, 67, you'll see the Rams average about 65, 66, 67 plays a game. All right, and let's take a look at the Rams' third down, right? 36% definitely on the upswing. And let's take a look at the passing game. Well, this unbelievable running game, though, that's at the expense of the passing game, correct? Well, look at what the Rams are averaging. The Rams are in top 10 passing offense and have been pretty consistently from about week 5 forward, right? In this stretch, the last 3, the Rams have not dropped off. They're still at 215 passing yards. So let's take a look at this. 215 passing yards, a drop off roughly of about 17 passing yards, but look at that touchdown or interception ratio. That's where the payoff is. The passing game hasn't really dropped off. It's just become more efficient. And that's the key. It is a balanced offense with a sledgehammer ground game, and now you have Staff just launching absolute missiles downfield with regularity. We said the ground game will dictate the number of offensive plays. Aaron Kyren in the last 5, look at his average. They're just ridiculous. Let's just stop and reflect and tip our cap to the dog. 21 attempts, 91 yards per game, 9 total TDs. That's rushing and receiving. 9 in 5. He's almost at 2 touchdowns a game. This kid is just churning it out. And just a very interesting stat, there is only one other player on this entire roster with a rushing TD, and that's Puka. Right?
It's crazy, by the way. Crazy.
Aaron Kyren has accounted for the ground attack pretty much all year. So, yeah, absolutely. And now with Puka back and other players that can threaten the edge, it's only going to help Aaron Kyren. And if they, mix in Blake the Great, you got the makings of a two-headed monster. And just, lastly, the Rams defense, as we had sort of opened up and commented on, they were at 24 points a game, pretty much season across the board. But in their last 3, 20.7. All right, starting to chip away at the zone. If we can get that number under 20, the Rams are in business. The Rams are cooking. So hopefully the Rams defense continues to step up, continues to emerge as Chris Shula becomes more and more comfortable with his personnel, and as the personnel become more and more comfortable with the scheme. But they really have to turn it around in defense, because right now that is the missing link. But if that trend continues, look out.
Yeah, I agree with that. What, any thoughts on this, Mark?
Yeah, it's the rushing game. I still want to see Blake Corum get more involved, and I think he will. My concern is, hey man, I love Kyren, but let's have both of those guys fresh going into the playoffs. We hope that's going to happen. I don't have any doubt that Kyren can handle that load, but I'd still like to see. And they're starting to get Blake involved a little bit, and that's good. So yeah, good stuff, Paul.
And your point, very, very well stated. What's the point of having roster depth if you're not going to utilize load management proactively, particularly down the stretch? Now, nobody's saying that you got to start pulling players and take these last 3 games lightly. That's not what anybody's saying. But you have to be strategic. Just taking a look at Aaron Kyren, 29 back-to-back 29 attempt games is not the way you want to go going into the playoffs. If you have the luxury of easing back and letting other players come in and carry the load, we just talked about Jay Witt being back before. That might be a nice way to get, some of the wide receivers some rest. You still got Tyler Johnson, right? Tutu could get more work. You have Xavier Smith that could get more work. Load management is huge, and also in creating some separation, getting Staff out of a game early, right? We have that other player on our roster, which will remain, I will not speak his name, but we have that other player on the roster. Perhaps he could earn a little bit of that money down the stretch, right? And as long as the Rams are able to put distance between themselves and the opposing team, and maybe staff can sit down a fourth quarter and relax. And no more quarterback keepers for staff hitting the edge. Let's try to avoid that one, Coach McVay.
Yeah. He said we're not going to do that anymore. As our media was kind of like, hey, that's a crazy play call, and he's like, well, if it worked, it would have not been so crazy. But McVay kind of reflected. JB Long, voice of the Rams, kind of teased him about that too. He's like, yeah, that probably won't happen again. So, yeah, keep our older, second oldest starting quarterback other than Rodgers, keep him alive for the playoff games that are upon us these next 3 weeks. So I agree with that. But great starting blocks too. Hopefully we get more of these checked off the list of things that continuously are on the upward trend, as you like to say. So hell yeah to that. And gentlemen, it's time. It is time. Rams versus Jets, week 16. It's already here. Isn't that incredible? We're already here. Christmas time, week 16. I can't believe it. But then, as you live through a football season, things just fly by in a blink of an eye. But here we are with the Jets not having a year they were hoping for, as they were trying to copy we're a quarterback away from competing legitimately for a Super Bowl. Why don't you ask the Atlanta Falcons how that went today, right? With their scenario, or the Browns, or the Denver Broncos, and other teams who saw what the Rams did, and obviously what Tampa Bay did with signing Tom Brady. But these big trades, these big acquisitions have not worked out for any of these teams. So Rams Nation, be grateful Stafford's a baller and that he pulled it off in year one, because if that team did not win a championship and we went through these rough patches these last 2-3 years, I mean, things would be very different. So shout out to the Rams organization. Shout out to Stafford for being that dude who got us a ring, and all these other teams trying to copy it and have miserably failed.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Deck your home with Blinds.com. La 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 la. La 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 Blinds.com. DIY or let us install. La 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 la. La 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 Blinds.com. Free design consultation. Free. Plus free samples and free shipping. Free.
Head to Blinds.com now for up to 40% off site-wide, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
But with that, Rams at Jets here. Rams 8-6, Jets 4-10. Disaster year with all the moves they've been making. Rams beat the 49ers in the rain. Jets beat the Jaguars, who suck. Let's just call it what it is. It's nice for them morally, for the team, New York team up there. But the Jaguars suck. Coach Peterson is probably going to get fired. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think is a good quarterback. Never really thought that in general, to be honest with you. And, Mac Jones was out there for an injured Lawrence. Devontae shredded them, but that was his first game really going off as a Jet, or even just his whole season, even his time with the Raiders. So take that with a grain of salt, Rams Nation. Jaguars suck, so don't be too like, oh my God, we better watch out. Like, they're going to go off on this. It's possible, but Jaguars. So with that said, I mean, there's tons of stuff. They lost to the 49ers, then beat the Titans and Patriots, and everyone was like, oh, look at Aaron Rodgers when he was on that primetime game. He looks like MVP Rodgers. And then, the Patriots are not a good team either. So everyone kind of learned that as the weeks went on. And they lost to the Broncos horribly, then the Vikings and the Bills and the Steelers. And then they lost to the Patriots in the second time around. And they won some other games, beat the Texans, then lost another 4, right? And then they finally get to this Jags game this last week. So 3 of those 4 wins are against teams that also suck, 3-11. So they're not in a good spot. And gentlemen, what's your quick thoughts on this Jets team and how the season has been a disaster for an all-in team making all these big trades and acquisitions?
Well, yeah, and we haven't even talked about that Robert Saleh situation that was just really embarrassing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How that all went down with Nathaniel Hackett. If what we heard is true, it's just really bad. And you think of what the last 2 years have been for Jets fans, right? They bring in Rodgers. How early in that season opener did he get hurt? It was like right from the get-go, right? Out for the year. And then this year.
Fourth play or something like that. Fourth play.
Right?
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, I mean, that's just horrible from a fan's perspective. And then this year, 4-10, and Robert Saleh getting fired in a really ugly situation. So they're, they have some good players. They really do. But yeah, pretty disappointing.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Any thoughts on them going all in, just like the Rams did, and it being a disaster now in year 2 of this all in mode for them?
Yeah, sort of a tough analysis. My son is like the world's biggest Jet fan. And, and shout out to the Beast Coast, right? As we hold it down out here in the tri-state area. But, it's sort of tough. Their roster is not devoid of talent. They're like Mark sort of alluded to, there's definitely got some ballers on this roster. But, I agree with you. I think the Rodgers was the wrong way to go. I think going back to what Mark said about team culture, they need to sort of take a look from the organizational standpoint. There needs some changes that have to be made and some consistency that has to be implemented. 1 or 2 individuals, bringing them in and letting them be in charge, letting them work together, build synergy from all facets of the organization. Listen, it's New York. There's no reason for them to be in that situation for the period of time they've been in that situation, right? And I know Jet fans, many of my buddies are Jet fans, so I feel their pain. But always got to pull for gangrene. So shout out to the Jet fans, loyal as can be, and shout out to the Jets, and shout out to the Air Force Academy cadets. One of my close friends, his son's coming home for 10 days. Their break is coming up, so shout out to the Flying Falcons.
Respect to him out there. And well, while we're on that topic, gentlemen, let's get into this roster as a whole, as we all kind of mutually agree here. And I'm sure even just objectively as any football fan, that they have a pretty good roster, but disaster season, disaster couple years. So let's just get into it then with this Jets defense we'll start out with here. So I have here listed, shout out everybody tuning in on YouTube, as you can see here, their first string, their starters, and then second string, since they do rotate a ton of guys in. That is what Saleh liked, and their interim coach likes to do as well. So Will McDonald's had a decent year. Quinnen Williams is still an awesome player in my eyes. Former 49er Javon Kinlaw, former 49er Solomon Thomas rotate in. Michael Clemens, Hassan Reddick, who hated being a Jet up until, he went straight to ownership and said, pay me. And ownership was like, yeah, screw our GM and everybody. Well, I'll take care of you. So that's, another reason why things don't go well. You got Chaz Stewart, Jermaine Sherwood, who's leading the league or top 5 in total tackles this season thus far up until the year. So he's been a tackling machine for them. Quincy Williams, who has Pro Bowl All-Pro potential. Michael Carter, Sauce Gardner, former All-Pro. DJ Reed, who's had a good year in my opinion. Chuck Clark. Jalen Mills is going on IR, so that's somebody we will not see in this game. So it should be maybe Tony Adams or Davis filling in. Who knows? We'll find out on Sunday, I assume, in the morning when Stafford gets out there. But the defense got tons of talent. But, when you fire your coach who was leading that defense and doing a good job, is it really a shock that things go to hell right after that? Right, Mark?
Yeah, that was it's just so deflating for a team, for a roster, for the locker room when that stuff goes down. And that Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to take a pretty educated guess that Aaron Rodgers had a lot to do with that. I'm not going to say that he got Robert Saleh fired, but you can kind of connect the dots, right? What does that do to a locker room when your quarterback is involved in those shenanigans, which I could be wrong, but that's what it looked like to me outside looking in. So yeah, it's just stuff that doesn't happen in the Rams locker room, at least very rarely. We have our moments, the Cam Akers moments, stuff like that. But man, the Jets, it's just been I don't want to say a dumpster fire. I hate that term, but it hasn't been pretty.
No, it hasn't been pretty for sure. But Paul, what are your quick thoughts on this defense, who I think has some good talent on it for sure?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you had, like you were saying, like you have a coach who was a defensive minded coach. He came in and he had a large say in terms of the players that were brought onto the roster. Now, by his absence, you have a roster that was really created in somebody else's image, right? And that comes one of the major issues moving forward when you start to make these type of coaching changes midseason. And that's what really impacts teams and sets them back by 2 or 3 years instantaneously, right? So that's a huge issue. But yeah, you look at this roster, they definitely should be better than what their record says.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So defensively, tons of players to watch out for. No doubt about it. They can have a good performance if they're still willing and able to dig deep and have that for sure. But definitely can't treat that side of the ball like they're a bunch of bums, like their record might indicate for sure. But offensively, we go to that side of the football. Same thing, in my opinion. Tons of talent, but things have just not come together. So they acquired Devontae Adams when he was not having a good time in Vegas after originally demanding a trade to Vegas. So here he is, teamed up with his old buddy Aaron Rodgers. He finally had a good game as a Jet against the crappy Jaguars. Then you have Olu Fashanu, who's had a decent season. You got John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, a former USC man for any of the West Coast college football fans out here. Morgan Moses. It's been on and off, but it hasn't been very bad, truthfully. And the group hasn't been fantastic like they were hoping for, but they've done enough, I feel, to be at least league average in a lot of moments. But then you think of Tyler Conklin at tight end. He's been okay. Alan Lazard's had some decent moments. Garrett Wilson is open a ton when I've been watching film on them, but, they just can't get him the ball. Aaron Rodgers has just had an awful year for his standards, his Hall of Fame standards. He's had some good games here and there, but just like Kirk Cousins, I mean, these dudes coming back from the Achilles at this, high 30s, pushing 40, or Aaron Rodgers is 40 and up. That's a tough task, and he just doesn't look like he has his body under him, which you need to throw a football. So he could have a good game any day, but majority of the season he is not. And then Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are a good 1-2 punch at running back, but they've looked like they've checked out here and there with games and all the chaos going on. But again, you look through this whole roster here on offense, it's a good talented group right here, in my opinion. What about you, Mark? What do you think?
Yeah, Braylon Allen is coming out in the draft. We talked a little bit about him, didn't we, Paul? Breece Hall, I really thought, if you asked me a couple of years ago, he was going to be the up and coming running back he was going to be like what Kyron Williams has become, right? And but those two wide receivers, and I know it was against Jacksonville, but they still scare me a little bit. And we better have a plan to take care of them in our secondary. And I don't know what the plan's going to be, but it's going to be a challenge. And maybe cold weather will be to our advantage. Maybe limit the passing game because that's where I think the Jets can get us is in the passing game.
Yeah, what about you, Paul? Quick thoughts on this offensive group here.
Yeah, I'm all in on Fashanu and Brees Hall. I love those two. Love Garrett Wilson. It's just a shame. This offense could have had a ton of firepower, just hasn't come together. But solid picks in Fashanu, Brees Hall. We have seen what he can do. He's definitely a beast. And like I said, it's a shame that the Jets have to now go back to square one again, just trying to reinvent themselves for next season. But this is a team you can't take lightly. You can't take anybody lightly for the rest of the season. Kyron Williams said it best in his interview, and we've been talking about it as well. For the Rams, it's all about sharpening the blade for the next couple of weeks. They got to win every game. It's all faceless opponents. Just try to be 1% better by player. Have every player just be 1% better every game, and slowly work your way forward. And so like I said, it's a tale of two teams, right? Going in opposite directions. But the Rams, from their perspective, have to take this team seriously. Mark is spot on.
Yeah, 100%. So, out of this group that we've shown you, offense and defense, Rams Nation, who the hell are their best players? We talked about how there's tons of talent on this team, but who did we come together and say, you know what, we got to watch out for these three guys here? And we'll start off with Garrett Wilson. No doubt about it. I mean, dude is fantastic, crispy, awesome route running, great hands as he had that big one-handed catch in a primetime game, as you can see here pictured. I mean, dude is legit, and you can see his frustration building on the sideline because he's like, hey, I'm one-on-one, and I'm toasting this corner on me. Get me the damn ball. And is that very diva-like? Yes, it is, but he's been suffering as a Jet for a long time, but despite all that, he's still going out there giving it his all and is getting open, making crazy catches, a willing blocker, maybe not the best, but he's trying, and there's no doubt about it. He is one of their best players for sure. Well, another player who I think is not a shock at all is Quinnen Williams, someone else who maybe isn't lighting up all the stats on the total tackles and sacks and all pressures, but he's still an all-pro level defensive tackle, no doubt about it. Playing with his brother Quincy Williams behind him, gives him a boost, and that's always fun. But no doubt about it, if he can go off on you on any game, dude is still playing good, in my opinion. Again, the stats aren't all there, but he's someone that the Rams definitely have to watch out for in the interior and protect Stafford and get this guy the hell away from our quarterback as often as possible. And this might be a surprise to many people who maybe haven't been paying attention to the Jets overall, but defensive back corner DJ Reed, I think, has had a really nice season. Now, we can look at all the passing stats and say, oh, they're not very good, but it has nothing to do with him. Let's be honest. Has he had some moments where you're like, that's not so good? Of course, it's the life of a corner. You're going to have some bad moments. It's tough playing corner in the league. You can't even play patty cake with a receiver and they'll call holding or PI on you. It's really incredible nowadays. It's tough being a corner, but I think he's had a really nice season. And those three guys have been consistently their best players. Could any of the other ones like a Devontae or a Rodgers or a Quincy Williams or McDonald or even a Sauce Gardner go off and ball out? Of course, but they haven't consistently been there. But definitely DJ Reed, Garrett Wilson, and Quinnen Williams have been their best players through this point in the season. But gentlemen, I'll start with you, Mark. Any thoughts on any of these three guys specifically?
Well, yeah, Garrett Wilson. I haven't seen a lot of Jets football, but he kind of jumps off the screen. When you're watching the Jets, he's super talented. So it'd be interesting to see how the Rams address that, how they try to limit him, because as we know, been a little bit better over the last few weeks, but we've had some wide receivers go off on us, and now we got two really good ones coming at us. But yeah, Garrett Wilson, he is a talent for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Any comments on any of the three players?
Yeah, first off, a shout out to Jeremy Ruckert. He's a Strong Island kid, the tight end. Shout out to the Ruckert family representing the 631 from Lindenhurst High School. Way to go. Yeah, it's going to be a good test for the Rams. Would love to see the Rams secondary put together 2 games in a row, right? See D Will and the boys shut it down. It was awesome to watch. What was it? 9 passes defended in the game. Phenomenal. So we would love to see that again. Really see them solidify that aspect of the defense. So yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. So, but yeah, Garrett Wilson is a burner, man. I'm digging that kid. They got to throw him the ball a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, they got talented players, and like you said earlier, Mark, if we're not careful, I mean, we're gonna be in some trouble for sure. But before we get to keys to victory, Rams Nation, what has the history between the Rams and the Jets been since the year 2000? And because they are an AFC East team, there hasn't been very much matchups that have gone on. But this is a team that Sean McVay has not yet defeated in his young career there, as the Rams and Jets have not played each other very much since 2000. 2001, Rams won 34-14. 2005, they had an overtime game with the Jets. 2008, Rams got absolutely annihilated. And 2012, another ass kicking by the Jets. And then 2016, the first year back in LA Rams 2.0, if you like to call it that. Jeff Fisher's Rams had a Jeff Fisher-like offensive game where we won 9-6. I guess very similar to the game we just watched on Thursday night. All field goals and all defense in a game where both offenses were just god awful, and weather wasn't a huge factor like rain it was in that Thursday game. But we all remember that 2020 matchup where Sam Darnold came in, the winless Jets came and beat the number 1 defensive Rams team during that season and absolutely shocked the world by getting a big win where Jared Goff did not have a good game and Sam Darnold came in and played pretty dang good against our number 1 defense. And that is the only time Sean McVay has played the New York Jets. And it was a home game, no fans, but that was a big game because we didn't know if that game was going to cost us the playoffs at that point or even totally get us in the division if we had won that game or get us in the playoff tournament. So that game was a big loss at the wrong time. Again, that was a 20 game. That was late in December, like this one's coming up. So can't take teams lightly, right, gentlemen? But what's your thoughts, Mark, on this short Rams history since the year 2000?
Yeah, that Jets game with Sam Darnold, I have to tell you, that was one of the most deflating games I've ever seen. The result was one of the most deflating because, you always have this sneaky suspicion a really crappy team's going to come in and ruin it for you. I don't think that's going to happen this Sunday, but that game, that is what happened. And it was evident that the Rams had already checked it off as a win in that game and weren't ready to play. And I want to call out one of my favorite Ram games, even though they lost the 1983 game in New York, the Mark Gastineau, Jackie Slater confrontation. A lot of you folks are probably too young to remember that, but Mark Gastineau was the defensive lineman who had a sack dance, and Jackie Slater shut him down for about 50 snaps. And then on the 51st snap, Gastineau got a sack and started to do his dance, and Jackie Slater was having none of it, and all hell broke loose. It was quite a scene. You can find that on YouTube. I'm sure it's a pretty crazy scene. Jackie Slater and the Rams taking on the Jets in midfield there. Delayed the game probably for about 20 minutes. They sorted that out. But one of those crazy NFL fights.
Nice. What are your thoughts on that? And then Rams history, Paul?
Yeah, that was a great melee, right? Because Gastineau kept dancing while Slater's throwing, body blows. But the Rams and Jets are also connected. First 100-yard game for Eric Dickerson was against the Jets. I think it was Game 4 of the season in that '83 season. Went for 192 and 2 touchdowns. And also, Joe Namath retired as a Ram with those 2 huge knee braces. So the Rams and Jets connection cannot be denied, right? Royal and soul will always be tied to the Jets for those 2 reasons. And of course, the Gastineau the Gastineau brawl.
Yeah, that's classic right there. So, hey, let's get another team from the AFC East that Sean McVay has not beaten. He had not beaten the Bills a couple weeks ago. Finally got that monkey off his back. Now it's time to get this Jets monkey off Sean McVay's back, and hopefully we can get that done. But we don't need a repeat of 2020 here. A late December game, a letdown game, and hopefully that is not the case, or I'll be in a bad mood. But with that said, Rams Nation, let's get to some keys to victory. And how the hell are the Rams going to win this game in some pretty crappy weather? But before we unveil all of our keys to that hopeful victory, it's important to go through some offensive stat leads so you have an idea of this team and what they're doing. So Brees Hall, 722 rushing yards. Rodgers, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not a bad stat line, but he's missing a lot of throws. Garrett Wilson, shy of 1,000. I'm sure he'll break that in the next 3 weeks. Devontae, he's finally coming to his own. Lazard getting some stuff done as well. And some key injuries that I think are very big to point out going into this matchup, as well as Jets have a ton of people, that are limited, did not practice on IR. Their starting kicker, former Ram, Greg the Leg, who kicked us into the Super Bowl in the 2018 campaign. He had a rough year, but, he was hurt, so sayonara to him. Former starting linebacker CJ Mosley got replaced, and they haven't really missed him, unfortunate for him. Tyrone Smith, their big acquisition, who has been hurt a ton these last years, who hasn't been a factor really at all this second half of the season. He's been gone, but, keep an eye on Elijah Vera Tucker. Is he going to play? I know Quinnen Williams, keep an eye on him. Let's see how he's going to play as, games become less and less meaningful. Do guys mail it in? I don't think so, but that's something to keep an eye on. Then Quincy Williams, let's see if he's at full strength. Morgan Moses, Isaiah Davis, all these cats who are going to play and have significant roles. Keep an eye on them. And then on our side, still waiting on news from John Johnson. Maybe they're holding out hope that they can get away with activating him for the playoff run only, and maybe, not have to do it in the next 3 weeks. But Kobe Durant finally got over that quote unquote last hurdle Sean McVay was looking for him to return from his bruised lung from the Buffalo Bills game. And reportedly he was kind of coughing up blood on the sideline. I mean, that must have been a scary sight and feeling for him, Durant, seeing that and feeling that. So I'm glad everything was okay with him. And looks like like we talked about earlier, he'll have a role to play yet again in this upcoming matchup. But your thoughts, Paul, on the key injuries heading to this game?
Yeah, apart from Durant, when is the last time we've looked at the Ram injury list and been like, wow, it's not that bad, right? Not to, not like 4 or 5 starters that are laid up. So the Rams are probably one of the healthier teams in the league at this point of the season. So this is, what a turn of events. So once again, that being a theme, Kobe Durant doesn't have to be rushed back into service. And you're absolutely right about Johnny Johnson, right? They're trying to save that one last activation that they have remaining. But Johnny Johnson will be a welcome return for the Rams in that secondary, right? The Rams' true center field that will free up, Q Lake and Curl to sort of freelance a little bit more. But yeah, they're fairly healthy. You could see that, and the Rams should be hitting on all cylinders, and hopefully they come in and play a very consistent, refined ball game.
Yeah, I hope so. Mark, your thoughts on injuries heading to this game?
Well, you compare that to a team like Detroit that started like a balls of fire out of the gate, while the Rams were struggling through injuries, and now it's kind of flipped, right? I think I heard a crazy number, something like 17 guys on defense on IR for the Lions, something like that. And then you look at the Rams defense, and they're pretty squared away. And one thing that we have to remember, looking forward to next year, getting Darion Kendrick and Trey Tomlinson back, our secondary is going to be pretty deep. We still need maybe one top level talent, another elite cornerback to add to that group, but we're going to be in really good shape when you consider, Darion Kendrick. We all heard that he was really shining in camp, and was going to have a significant role. And hopefully he'll come back strong next year. I know it has nothing to do with this game, but looking forward, I like the fact that we're going to get two young cornerbacks back next year.
Yep, something to look forward to for sure. And hopefully, this group, this young group that we have, doesn't get annihilated by an older Devontae Adams and a young Garrett Wilson. So I hope that does not happen because that would be crappy. But with that said, here's some quick stats here. So real fast, we got Jets defensive leader Kinlaw Hassan, all these guys we had talked about earlier, people to keep an eye on outside of the best players we highlighted earlier as well. Their draft picks, Fashanu, we had talked about Corley, Jordan Travis, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Qantas Siggers, Jalen Key. So some guys hitting, some guys not. Typical of every draft, but some of these dudes not hitting quite as much as the Jets were hoping for with their 4-win season thus far in the year. No bueno there. But here's some quick little stats. Jets offense, one of the worst or the worst rushing offense, as everything's about quick passing with Aaron Rodgers. Very old school 1980s West Coast offense. It's like, 1, 2, 3, throw it out. 1, 2, 3, throw it out. 1, 2, 3, throw it out. Okay, that would have worked, 10 or more years ago. But in the modern offense, you got to be able to hit every part of the field. So that is like an extension of the run game, the quick passing game, which is why, their rushing yards per game is just awful. But outside of that, their points per game ain't very good. 22nd. Passing yards per game, still below, average. Yards per game, bottom tier. Jets defense, the yards per game hasn't been bad, but their offense, putting them in bad spots, have kind of skewed these stats. 120 rushing yards per game, not very good. The passing yards per game, you're like, whoa, they're pretty good, but teams run on them pretty easily, and the bad field position that their offense puts them in kind of skews those stats. And then points per game, they're on the lower tier, 18. So you can score on this defense. No Saleh, interim defensive coordinator is the head coach. It's just not working out well these last, month and a half, 2 months here. The Rams offense, like Paul pointed out earlier, passing game's working well. Everything's kind of trending upward with the total yards. The rushing yards per game is trending up. Points per game is getting a little bit better. So we're hoping to see those overall stats increase. And the Rams defense, a lot of these are skewed with historic performances by Saquon, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. And we hope to see these things get a little bit better. But, that 28th in rushing yards per game, we got to see that get a little bit better, right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's like we've been talking about. So anytime you go on the road, these are the type of games that scare us, right? You go on the road and you face a team that can throw the ball. Devontae just went off, right, last week, right? Made fantasy owners really happy. And now you come in and you're like, oh, great, this dude's red hot. You got Rodgers who's capable of lighting it up, and you got a balanced offense because you got Breece Hall still there, right? And you got a speed burner in Wilson. So this is a game that if you get sloppy on the road, all road games, I just checked the temperature. It's supposed to be like 28 degrees, Beast Coast December temperature, right? Not, cozy SoFi weather. So there are a lot of variables that could really make this, a tough game for the Rams. The Rams got to come in focused with a game plan. And for me, where I'm going to be most curious, I have a lot of confidence in the Rams office. I think they're going to come in and do their thing. Is I want to see what Shula's going to put together. Just like as you were talking about, we've seen guys go off against the Ram defense. The last thing we want to see is another 190 game from Devontae. So I'm curious to see what type of game plan he's going to put together against the Jets. Because, like I said, every game moving forward is really prepping for the playoffs. That's the way you got to think about it. And I want to see what type of defense Shula is going to roll out, because that's really going to let us know what's it going to look like in the playoffs.
Any quick thoughts, Mark, on any of these stats that stand out to you, man?
No, I tried to highlight here, where the teams match up pretty evenly, good and bad. The Jets rushing offense against the Rams rushing defense. I think the Rams rushing defense has been improved, though. And same with the Rams rushing offense. It's been on the upswing. And then I think the Rams offense against the passing offense against the Jets passing defense will be real interesting. And unfortunately, we do need to acknowledge that if there's a quarterback that has established he can play well in cold weather, it's Aaron Rodgers, right? All those years in Green Bay. But hopefully age is catching up with him and he doesn't even want to be out there at this point.
I hope so too, dang it. I hope so too, Rams Nation. I mean, ugh. But yeah, Stafford had all those years in the North as well. So we're hoping that without the rain and the wet football is kind of depleting his accuracy. Hopefully, in this cold weather coming up on Sunday in New York, won't screw him like it did the Thursday game as well. But with that said, gentlemen, let's talk about our keys to victory. How the hell are the Rams going to win this game? Offense, defense, and special teams. And I'll start with you, Paul. What do you think the Rams need to do to get a win in this early start for a West Coast team, right? It's a 10 a.m. start mentally for the Rams being here in the West Coast. Yes, it is a 1 p.m. game on the Eastern side, part of the early window. But Stafford and McVay have all talked about, hey, we like these early games. You know, we wake up early anyway, and we just want to get ready to play football. So with that in mind as well, what do the Rams need to do to get this victory?
They need to come in with all, guns a-blazing, man. Get on the Jets early. None of these slow starts with the goose eggs in the first quarter. A nice balanced attack. They got the sledgehammer ground game. They have been throwing the ball downfield, and Stafford looks sharp. Like we talked about the last time, Rams Nation, interesting, right? Rams have moved away from the pistol. They've committed themselves to play action, and Stafford looks great under center. That's his thing. He loves being under center. So that balance between being under center and coming out of the shotgun is something to watch to see that pattern. But Stafford's been hitting every throw on the field. Every throw on the field, he's been spot on. So, but once again, how they're going to work in the load management for this game, I think is going to be important. On defense, they got to get that NASCAR dime setup back together again, right, with the 3 outside linebackers. That sort of slowed down. Teams have been adapting to that and slowing down the pass rush. So looking for sacks on the defense, looking for turnovers, continuing that trend of secondary and linebackers and D linemen being able to generate those plays. They're going to lead to takeaways. So that's the keys to victory right there. The Rams got to play a consistent game on the defensive side of it, but generate some takeaways. Win that TO differential once again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more for sure. What about you, Mark? What are your keys to victory for the Rams to come up top in the early game there in New York?
Yeah, I give this some thought, and I think a game like this, you want to get out of the gate quickly. You don't want to find yourself in an early hole on the road. Give this team life because I think the Rams are the better team and they should win this game. And just no bonehead plays. You know, we've been playing really clean football. None of these fumbles at the other team's 15 or at our own 10. Not giving up. I think I'm more concerned about our offense. Not really concerned, but if our offense has a bonehead play or two, turnovers at the wrong time, that could really turn the tide in a game like this. And I'd like to see us start getting back to, getting our pass rush going again, get to Aaron Rodgers a little bit, especially early in the game. I think our pass rush it's been starting to peter out just a little bit. We got to get back to really harassing quarterbacks from start to finish.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that as well. One of my quick keys to victory offensively, continue what you've been doing. Run the rock, stay balanced. Again, like you pointed out, Paul, and we've been noticing this last month of games that the pistol is no longer a part of the offense formation-wise. And I enjoyed it, but I do understand the thought process of, hey, let's be under center, old school style. So then when we do the run fake, we have that run action and your back is completely turned. It just visually for a defense, it looks like the run is going to happen more than you peeking in the backfield out of the shotgun pistol formation where the run fake could be done in a second and defenses don't get suckered in as much. I do understand that thought process behind it and why teams have been kind of veering away from it. And we've been veering away from it. So, hey, keep that run game going. Keep the play action pass going. It's been working. Stafford, I know, and every quarterback has said, turning your back to the defense and then whipping around to immediately dissect and digest what's happening can be tough. But luckily, Stafford is that dude where he does it at a very high clip, and he's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the entire league. Keep that going. Be like I've always been saying, guys, be diverse in the playbook. More screens, more interesting screens. We've been starting to see that more with Nakua. It hasn't been just been a classic outside receiver screen. We've seen tunnel screens where Dotson's bulldozing people. We've seen bubble screens where you get immediate, a catch and run and lead blockers. I enjoy. How about some running back screens? How about some tight end screens? And then everything else, let's keep doing it. And I think that collection together will get this team to score some more points and not have 12 only being put on the scoreboard. Defensively, this is a tough one. Let's just be honest about it. Garrett Wilson, we have nobody that could cover him. Let's just be honest about it. Darius Williams is probably our best bet. I know Akello has had some good moments, but in terms of like speed to speed, Darius is the guy. I think Akello will be matched up on Devontae. I think the body types fit better. Smaller Darius with a smaller Garrett Wilson, bigger Akello Witherspoon with a bigger Devontae Adams. I think that's how it should be, truthfully, with the skill sets matching up. And we just have to do our best to not commit pass interference down the field, because I know the Jets will be like, hey, this team could get a little handsy if we just throw it up and they play a little too aggressive, because, he likes those fade passes to Devontae. Garrett Wilson, the same thing. We got to be disciplined. Just because you think it's covered, do not get over the top with your hands and start grabbing and try to make a play, because that will be the cheap free yardage that the Jets get to continue their drives other than earning it, making good plays. So I think that's going to be a key matchup is, Rodgers is going to test us throwing those 50-50 passes back shoulder, over the top fade. And we got to be very careful of Darius Akello and even Kobe Durant. And if he gets his full-time gig back, got to be careful with being handsy with those two receivers. And I think schematically, sell out to stop the short pass. Make Rodgers have to chuck it downfield, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to do these old school 80s West Coast passes where it's like, oh, a quick little speed out here, a quick little stop right there, quick little play action. We throw to the flats immediately. All this stuff that people like to tease about the West Coast offense. That's what Rodgers loves to do. Make him push the ball down the field. Make him have to throw a 50-50 ball to Devontae or Garrett Wilson, which he hasn't been great at this whole season. So I think that's going to be very, very key and critical. Take away the short, make Rodgers throw it deep, and then defensive with the corners, just do your best to not get defensive holding or pass interference. And I think we'll be okay if those things can happen. And then special teams, hopefully Ethan Evans continues to kick well in the punt game, and then Cardi continues to make field goals in cold, crappy weather. And all those things are going to be key for sure. So those are my quick thoughts on that. And hopefully we see all these things come to fruition. And I'm sure we'll recap what we said here in the post-game reaction, and we can do a little check off of like, all right, did this happen? Nope. Or this happened? Yeah. And we can go through those then. But with that said, Rams Nation, we got to give you some early score predictions. What the hell do we think is going to happen in this game? We went through the injury report. We don't know exactly who's playing and who is not, but the Rams are pretty healthy. They're going into it not beat up very bad at all. Jets have a bunch of coin flip guys, but guys that are probably going to end up playing. So I'll start with you then, Paul. What is your early score prediction? Do you think the Rams are going to win, lose? And then what's the numbers on that?
Yeah, I think the Rams come out firing on all cylinders. I think Stafford gets it done. I think Iron Karen does his thing. I think the Rams get a chance to rest some of their starters in the fourth. I think it's going to be a 24-13 victory for the Rams. Temperature is going to be a little bit up there. It might suppress the point total. So I'm going to go with 24-13.
24-13 Rams win. I hope that'd be the case, because I am nervous for this game. Just for many reasons. I'll share them shortly. But with that said, Mark, what is your early score prediction? What the hell do you think is going to happen numbers-wise in this game? Rams win? Rams lose? Do Rams tie? What do you think?
Yeah, I already give this some thought as well, and I'm kind of thinking the same way Paul is. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Definitely take the under, and I came up with 23-14, very similar. Yeah, I'll roll with that, 23-14. And let's see, I had the Rams 12-6 last week, right? Is that what I said?
I
No?
think so. Yeah. If I'm just thinking in my head real
You,
quick. I'm
you
like,
called the monsoon also too. You were spot on with that one.
Yeah. If anyone had that anything close to that score, bonus points for them.
bonus points for them for sure. And gosh, gentlemen, I am incredibly nervous for this game.
You're
This
always nervous, Ian.
I am. I haven't seen consistent play from this team. That we are trending in the right direction. But you know what this game reminds me though, gentlemen here, Rams Nation? This reminds me of last season's game against the New York Giants late in December, a team that was not playing good, who said, "You know what, Tyrod, get out there and see what you can do." And he went absolutely off on us. Saquon Barkley dropped the touchdown, and they probably could have beat us. They missed a game-winning field goal. They did a lot of stuff that really should have led them to a victory and would have probably kept us out of the playoff tournament. We're being honest, if we would have lost that game. Now, did other things happen that were in our favor that year or last season? Of course it was. But I'm getting strong vibes, just like last year against the Giants in cold MetLife Stadium. And gosh, I really do hope we win this game. And I'm going to go with the team who is just playing better, who believes in each other, who believes in the coaching staff, believes in the organization, not a losing organization. So I'm going to say this game's going to be 23-20. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a nail biter where we're going to see Rodgers just suddenly look like young Rodgers a couple moments here and there and hit a big pass. And we're going to be like, are you kidding me? Where is this coming from? Why against us? Just like Tyrod did to us the year before in cold MetLife Stadium. So Rams win 23-20. But let me say this right now. Would I be shocked if the Rams laid an egg up there? I would absolutely not be shocked. Weather's going to be crappy. Again, hopefully not wet. If that's the case, then Stafford should be able to throw power throws through the wind there in the cold weather. But I think this is going to be a nail biter. And I'll be a nervous Rams fan like every week, I suppose. But bad weather in New York, especially with that turf, with all the bad stuff that happens to players out there in that crappy stadium that everyone complains about where players get hurt. I mean, all these factors, I don't feel great about it, but I think Rams are just a better team, believe in each other, believe in where they want to go. So I think they'll get it done eventually, but I expect this game to be ugh.
Yeah, I've read the vibe seems to be on social media, at least some of the places I've looked, that, they're worried about the Rams not being ready, that taking them for granted, and that there's no reason the Rams should lose to the Jets. And I'm with you. This is almost a coin flip game. It's going to be tough. You fly across the country, cold weather, and play a team that's maybe they're playing out the string, but still, man, one or two mistakes and you're going to lose this football game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they got to treat this game like a playoff game, right? Gentlemen, Rams Nation, they have to this week. And I know I appreciate all the Rams fans out there putting out, hey, be there for the Saturday night Arizona game. We better see you there, all that good stuff. And everyone's talking about those games in a couple of weeks, but we got to take care of business in New York first before we can start talking about the final two home games and all that stuff. I think everyone just assumes that the Jets are just, a crappy, forget about them team. But like we illustrated, Rams Nation, this team's got tons of talent. They just haven't been able to put it together. So the Rams come in sleepwalking. They're going to get punched in the mouth, and we're going to all be like, how the hell did we lose that game? So I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, we don't want to have two losses, one to the Bears, one to the Jets during this season.
Embarrassing, really. Embarrassing if
Yeah.
that would have happened, right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm with you guys. You got to have that playoff mentality. Got to start talking about it now. You got to make it very explicit in everybody's minds. Every game is a statement game. Every game is a way for you to define, what is this team? What is their identity? Listen, the Rams got hot late, so it's a really important statement, right? What is the identity? Establish it now before you go into the playoffs. I think the return of Higgs is perfectly timed. I think it's going to energize the locker room, like you guys were hinting at. So instead of them coming out flat, they might be charged up a little bit more. I think that's huge. But I was worried about the same thing that you were worried about, and that messed up field. If it starts to rain again, the last thing you want are injuries, and all sorts of different things can happen. You want to be able to go in play your game, kill that clock, walk out, get back on that plane, go home. That's the way you want it. Because really, our playoffs start when we play Arizona and Seattle. That's our playoff season. That's right when it starts, right? We want to establish supremacy in the NFC West, and hopefully the Rams get lucky where that last game won't even matter, and then they can rest some of their superstars. So fingers crossed for that one. But get business, like you said, take care of business on Sunday, and then take care of business against AZ.
Yep, no doubt about it. And we're hoping for that Rams Nation. Get a damn dub before Christmas. I think everyone would enjoy that Tuesday and Wednesday much more if the Rams won up there in New York and, smash on the other big market here in the country. But with that said, Mark, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just Bodhisattva is my closing comment. If you're listening on the podcast, that's a shout out to my my band shirt that I'm wearing. I'll let you all figure it out. But yeah, go Rams. I think they're going to come away with a win, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be stressful, and I have a feeling they're going to entertain us one more time.
Hope so. What about you, Paul? Before we get out of here,
there'll be plenty of time to celebrate when the confetti falls. Man, there might be. Are you kidding? There might be an opportunity for a second LA parade. What's going on? I love it. Right. So Rams, hopefully they stay hot. And like we always say, boom, 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 feed the ground game.
Feed the ground game indeed. And Rams Nation, we're hoping that's the case on Sunday morning here in the West Coast with the early slated games out there in the New Jersey, New York area. But with that said, thanks for tuning in on another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable, episode 64. Week 16 upon us. Incredible. The season goes by so dang fast. And share this video with all your fellow Rams fans. Like, subscribe. We want to hear from you. Please let us know in the comments section if you're tuning in on YouTube. What do you think needs to happen for the Rams to win this game up in New York in a very, very cold game? I think 20 degrees reported. I don't know if you're going to be able to summon the football courage to get out there if it gets any colder, right, Paul?
I was at the Giants game last year, and that whole thing about Taylor, I was definitely feeling it. I was like, come on, it's a little too close for comfort. But shout out to the Giant fans they represented. It was a great game. We had a lot of fun talking football in the stands. Hopefully, I'm going to try to get out to MetLife again for the Jet game. But, shout out to Ram Nation, and wear your royal and soul to MetLife.
Yep. So if you're out there, Rams Nation, look for Paul. He'll be out there. I'm sure he'll be wearing a Dodger hat of some capacity. Just look for your fellow blue and gold members out there. I'm sure you might run into Paul if he's able to make it out there. But with that said, we're out of here. Again, let us know in the comments, how are the Rams going to win this game and then further increase their playoff odds of getting into that playoff tournament? But we're out of here. This is the Rams Up crew on another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable. I'm Ian. That's Paul. That's Mark. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you during the post-game reaction with a hopeful Rams W out there in New York, New Jersey. Peace.
Rams Nation, make sure you put your hometown in the comments so we can shout out you and your hometown.
Yes, sir. Salud.
Thanks, guys. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.